Okay, so once again, so we have our early Shabbos that we do here throughout the summer, and we start at 6:15 throughout the summer, and we'll soon see that 6:15 is not arbitrary at all. That 6:15 actually allows us to nestle in just as early as we can. Let's put it like that. Okay, and there are other issues that do arise as a result of that. The issues that arise with early Shabbos is in terms of candle lighting, is in terms of obligating others to begin Shabbos at that time. Other issues that come up is if I accepted Shabbos early, we're familiar with the concept of a Shabbat Goy. The Shabbat Goy is asking a Gentile to do certain things for us on Shabbos, which by no means is simple, and simply by hinting it doesn't make things all of a sudden permitted. But this also opens up the possibility of a Shabbat Yid, of a Jew who has not accepted Shabbos early. Can I have him do malacha for me? Can I have him do things on my behalf? And in a similar vein, let's say the husband goes to shul and brings in Shabbos when he brings in Shabbos, and when a person, male or female, bring in Shabbos also is an issue we'll be touching upon, because this actually is different when men bring on Shabbos and when women bring on Shabbos. But let's say the husband's coming to shul and going to daven at 6:15, and actual candle lighting this past week was 7:30 something, right? So the wife is not accepting Shabbos until much later. Is that kosher? Is that allowed? Is that acceptable? Or as a couple, must they be accepting Shabbos as a family? Must they be accepting Shabbos at the same time? So we're going to be touching on all of these issues as we work our way through. The first thing we're going to be going through is the Gemara, and I have both in Hebrew and in English, okay? The Gemara, which teaches us the obligation to add on to Shabbos. Everyone knows Shabbos is, how many hours is Shabbos?
26.
Or 25 hours, let's say. So it doesn't make sense, right? A day is 24 hours. I understand you want to do Shabbos, but how does it turn into 25 hours? So besides one aspect, there's another aspect of Tosefet Shabbos. They were supposed to add on from Chol, from the mundane, onto the holy. We make like a little bit of a buffer, both before and after. So even those who are following in the Hebrew, do first take a look in the English, where there's an introductory paragraph, okay, which on the first column, I have a little inverted L above it, and that's where we're going to get started. I'm going to pass one down to, there are a few extras there, right? Pass down to Alan.
By the way, we're doing like this on Sunday.
Okay. The command to desist from plowing before the 7th year. Excuse me. We know this is the Shemitah year in Israel. The command to desist from plowing before the 7th year, and to accord Shemitah sanctity to 8th year reapings of the 7th year produce, represents an adding on from the mundane, the 6th and 8th years, to the holy, the 7th year. We see that according to Rabbi Akiva, the source to add from the mundane onto the holy is the verse, "At the plowing and at the reaping you shall rest." Okay? So that is one source for adding on from Kodesh, from Chol, from the mundane, the regular, onto the Kodesh, onto the holy. Now those who want to join me in Hebrew, please do. It's boxed off over here in the Hebrew. Those who want to continue in the English may do so. Rabbi Yishmael, the Gemara says, Rabbi Yishmael mosif mechol ala kodesh minale. According to Rabbi Yishmael, who understands that verse by Shemitah in a different fashion. So how does he know this concept of adding on from the mundane onto the holy? The Gemara answers, Nafkale Midatanya. He learns it out from the following Braita the sages who expounded on the pasuk, the verse of Yom Kippur. It says by Yom Kippur. Now we know, of course, Yom Kippur falls out on which date of the month? The 10th. Yet the pasuk says, "V'initem et nafshotechem b'tish'ah." The pasuk says, "You shall afflict yourselves, you shall abstain, b'tish'ah l'chodesh," on the 9th day of the month. The pasuk actually speaks about the 9th day of the month. Yachol b'tisha. I might think that it means literally on the 9th day. You're going to fast on the 9th day. Tamar lomar ba'erev. But it says in the evening. Oh, okay, that makes sense. So the evening of the 9th is when? Is what? The evening of the 9th is the 10th. Right? I ba'erev. If that's the case, yachol, I might think it means misha techashach. Once it gets dark. But the problem then is, once it gets dark, is it any more considered the 9th? Once it gets dark, it's the 10th. Tamaloma Batisha says the 9th day. So it says the 9th day, but it says in the evening, from evening till evening. Hakate said, how do we resolve this? Matchil umit'aneh mi ba'od yom. You'll start fasting already when? While it's still day on Erev Yom Kippur. Milamed. I learn out Shemosivim Mechal ala Kodesh. So that pasuk which speaks about fasting on the 9th day teaches me you've got to add on from the chol, from the mundane to the Kodesh. Ein li ela b'knisato. Fair enough. But I've seen that on the way in you pause earlier. You add on the way in. V'yitziato minayin. How do I know the same thing applies in the evening as it's leaving? They have to add on some on the way out also. Talmud Lomar me erev ad erev, from evening until evening. Okay, so just like by the first evening you add on prior to, so too by the next evening you add on ex post. Ein li ela Yom Kippurim. So this pasuk is only speaking about Yom Kippur, and I understand Yom Kippur is kind of unique and special. Shabbatot minayin. How do I know Shabbos is? Talmud Lomar Tishbitu. Actually, the term that we use by Yom Kippur is a term of Shabbat. Yom Tovim minayin. How do we know even other holidays? We just had Shavuot, Pesach, Sukkot, Rosh Hashanah. Talmud Lomar Shabbatchem. Your Shabbos. Haketzad. Wherever there is this concept of shavut, of abstaining, then mosifin mechol al kodesh. You have to add on from the chol onto the kodesh. Okay, which brings us to a larger topic. Why is Shabbos 25 hours? You say, oh, we just answered the question, right? We just answered the question. You have to start a little early, you end a little bit late. 25 hours, but it goes beyond that. When does the day become the next day?
3 stars.
Sorry?
3 stars.
Okay. On one hand, 3 stars, it's definitely the night. But we have an area, we have a time period called Bein Hashmashot. Bein Hashmashot is that dusk period. Now, according to some opinions, Bein Hashmashot begins right before it's really dark. And then it's going to end even after it's really dark. If you've heard of people who keep Rabbeinu Tam, it's called. Okay? Rabbeinu Tam, they keep Shabbos till very late. Right? About 40 minutes, 72 minutes. Right? Not the usual 40 minutes or 48 minutes. It's 72 minutes after sunset. Okay? Now, why is that? Because according to Rabbeinu Tam, the dusk period begins soon before the stars come out and continues until after that. So it's only nightfall for sure, they say, 72 minutes after sunset. Okay? Now, when does this Bein Hashmashot period begin? When does this dusk period begin? So again, Rabbi Thomas says soon before the stars come out. The Vilna Gaon, others say no, it starts with sunset. When the sun is no longer visible, it's still very light outside. But when the sun is no longer visible, that is already when dusk sets in. Now, very interesting. Yes?
I'm remembering being out in the desert, and there are mountains, and the sun sets behind the mountains, not at the same time it would set behind the horizon.
I believe if that's where you are, then you might be bound by that. You might be bound by that. Now we have our very clear, astronomy, and we have the Navy, and we have all, right, they give out, we have Maizmanim, right, it's all very, very clear. But there are two different points in time. We could say, let's go both beginning of day and end of day. We could say the day begins with the morning light, alot hashachar, or the day begins with actual sunrise. Similarly, we could say the day ends with the sun setting, or the day ends when there's no more light, when you could see 3 normal-sized stars. Those are the different ways of looking at it. So when it comes to Shabbos, let's take those 40 minutes, let's call it, from sunset till the stars come out. On Friday, is that definitely Friday, or might that be Shabbos?
Could be anything.
It could be Shabbos. Because that time period might be the night, in which case it's Shabbos. So when do we have to stop doing any malacha?
Earliest time?
Before the sun sets. Now let's look on Shabbos afternoon. The sun sets. Is that definitely night and Shabbos over, or might it still be day? It might still be day. Therefore, on Friday we have to be strict and say it might be night, it might be Shabbos. So let's just say now, let's make it simple. Let's say 7:45 is when the sun sets. 8:30 is when the stars come out. So comes 7:45 on Friday, it might be nighttime, it might be Shabbos. We stop doing malacha at 7:45. Now it's Shabbos afternoon. Now Shabbos is going towards the evening. 7:45, it might be daytime. And therefore we can't do any malacha until 8:45. That is how our Shabbos goes from 24 hours to a bit more than that. Yes?
How do you work it out in part of the world, like, let's say June 21st is the longest day, and you're in Norway, Oslo.
Okay.
They hardly have any...
One of my brothers-in-law was in Edmonton, Canada, and I think Shabbos.
Wow.
He said he said he'd be able to go. He
So
said you go out for dinner and catch a movie, and then go home and make Shabbos. Right? Shabbos wouldn't come in till 10, 11 o'clock, and wouldn't leave till close, 11, 12 o'clock. But I don't know exactly what it was. Yeah, it's quite a challenge when you're living in those places, especially if you have young children, right?
But you don't have the 25 hours time, or do you?
You do. It just starts later and ends later.
I see. Even though it's a daytime. Or...
Are you talking about a place where actually there is no sunset at all? Up by the poles? Yeah, I'm not sure. That's an interesting question. I'm not sure.
Alaska.
Yeah.
And we had night for an hour. And people were walking in the street 2 and 3 in the morning, talking as if it was 2 or 3 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. Okay, but here the Gemara is telling us that in addition to that, so let's say on our clock now, Shabbos begins 7:45. In addition to that, which is playing it safe on both ends, we've got to bring in Shabbos before that. We have a mitzvah to add on. Okay? Now, we're all familiar with 18 minutes, right? We like the number 18. We have 18-minute matzahs, right? We have 18 minutes by halachic neirot. That is not a set time. 18 comes out, there are different shito, different opinions of just how early it can actually get. So therefore, the 18 minutes allows us to cover all of those opinions. Okay. When do we accept, how does one accept Shabbos? And this speaks to differences of how a woman lights Shabbos candles and how a man would light Shabbos candles. A woman, well, the Shulchan Aruch says as follows. When you light, you make the bracha, Shabbat. Whether it's a man or a woman doing the lighting, the same bracha is said. Okay? Now, Yesh Misha Omer, the Ramah says, there are those that say, Shemevarchin Kodem Hahadlaka. Normally, whenever we do a mitzvah, what's the order that we do? Sorry, I'll actually finish this right. Whenever we do a mitzvah, what's the order that we do? We make a bracha, and we do the mitzvah. Therefore, over here, what should follow? Asher Kiddushanim V'Sasav Tzivanu Lahadlik Ner Shel Shabbos. And then we should light.
Oh no.
V'yesh misha omer, and that's exactly what a man does. If a man is lighting Shabbos candles, that's what he does. V'yesh misha omer shemevarech achar hadlaka. There are those that say that you should do the bracha after you have lit. Why? Because the understanding is, with the bracha, I'm accepting Shabbos. If I'm accepting Shabbos with the bracha, then what can't I do? I can't light a candle. It's Shabbos. So you can't make the bracha and then light, because once you've made the bracha, you've accepted Shabbos. If you've accepted Shabbos, you can't light. So therefore, what do? You have to make the bracha after. But how do I make a bracha after? I'm taking a bracha, you command me to do this mitzvah, if I've done it already. Right? I made a bracha before I put on my tefillin this morning. I can't make the bracha now. I've already done it. It's called over lasiato. The blessing needs to be prior to your actually doing that mitzvah. So therefore, what do we say? Lo yehaneh mimenu ad la'achar bracha. Therefore, the woman would light, not get hana'ah, not derive any benefit from it, meaning cover her eyes, and thereby she's not seeing the candles, not getting any benefit from it, and then make the bracha, and then she sees it, now she's getting the benefit, and that way it's considered to be somewhat the blessing prior to the action, because the role that the candles of Shabbos serve is the beauty of Shabbos, the illumination. So by not getting any mesimi hayad lifnei haner achar hadlaka, she'll place her hands literally in front of the candles. We customarily cover the eyes after the hadlaka, umavarchin, after the kindling. Then the blessing is said. Ba'achar kach misalkan hayad. Then the hands are removed. V'zeh mikri over l'asiyah. That's considered prior to the doing. V'chein ha-minhag, the Ramah says. So at least amongst the Bnei Ashkenaz, that is the custom. Because a woman, by making the bracha, she is accepting upon herself Shabbos. A man is not accepting upon himself Shabbos by making the bracha. Firstly, it's normally even before mincha. Right? So he can't be accepting Shabbos before he's davened mincha. The time that a man accepts Shabbos is when davening, and either at the end of Lecha Dodi when he says Boi Kala, welcome the bride, or immediately afterwards when we say Mizmor Shir Liom HaShabbat. Right? That is when the Shabbos is accepted. Therefore, a man is not going to be accepting Shabbos when he makes a bracha. Therefore, if a man, or Natalie's away in the summer, now Miriam's over, but when I'm doing the candle lighting, so I make my bracha, I light the candles. I don't do the whole eye covering thing. Linda was first, and then Alan.
No, that's what I was going to ask you, was about this. Between the lighting and the blessing, isn't that sort of deriving, I mean, what is it doing exactly?
Well, the real thing you're doing is covering your eyes. It's turned into a whole,
Yeah.
right? But the real thing on a halachic level that you are doing is covering your eyes or covering the flame and thereby not getting benefit until after your blessing. Alan.
So let's say a woman.
You're dafka not being Makabel Shabbos.
No, not Shabbos, but I think,
So,
Right?
no.
so let's say a woman lights a candle at home, but has in mind that she's going to go to shul.
That's the next thing. Come to that soon.
Stipulation.
I'll come to that right now.
Yeah.
That's the next thing I want to touch upon. Okay, we'll do it inside. That's the next thing I want to touch upon. Yes, Janet?
Sorry, my mouth is full. We'll do it next time I'm around.
Okay. So Alan brought up an interesting point, and that is the issue of a conditional lighting. So I'm reading the Shulchan Aruch now. The Shulchan Aruch says, according to the Baal Halacha Gedolot, Kevin Hidlik Ner Shel Shabbat, once you light the Shabbos candles, Chal Alav Shabbos. Shabbos has taken effect. The Ne'esar b'malacha, and one cannot do any malacha. The Af Baal Pizeh, and based on this, Noagol Ksat Nashim, there are some women, Sha'ach Sheberechu B'liko Nerot, after they have made the blessing and lit the candle, Mashlichol Eretz Haptila, they drop the match. Shabiyadan, Shelikuba, Ve'emechabodota, they don't want to extinguish that. Okay? V'yesh Omrim, now, this is not going with the Ramah. This is going, right? V'yesh Omrim she'imatna kodem shemadlika. If she'll make a condition before she lights, she'eina mekabel Shabbat, she's not going to accept Shabbos until the Chazan says Baruch Hu, until that later point. Mo'il, that condition will help. V'yesh Omen, there are those that disagree and say the condition doesn't work. Okay? And there are those that say that it's not dependent on the candle lighting. Now, the Ramah says, V'aminag, our custom is, Sha'ot Isha Madleket, the woman who lights the Shabbos candles, Mikabelet Shabbat Bahadlaka. She is accepting upon herself Shabbos when she lights. Im lo shetatnet techila, unless she first makes a condition. Va'afilu t'nai belev sagi. And even a condition, it doesn't need to be a spoken condition stating, I'm lighting candles, but I'm not yet accepting Shabbos. Even if that is the condition in her heart, that is sufficient. Now the Mishmur says, this should only be done if there's a need for it. Because there are those that disagreed, like we said before, and said that condition doesn't help. So what we do is, in those situations where, let's say, the woman is going to be driving to shul afterwards,
Or mikveh.
right? Or driving to mikveh and then walking home afterwards, whatever it might be, right? If there is a need for it, right? We don't just do it, but if there is a need, so then the woman will make a condition before lighting. It doesn't need to be a spoken condition, right? The woman understands that she's not accepting Shabbos with that candle lighting, and we're good to go. Alan.
Okay, so which brings me to the question I was going to ask. So if this is the case, right, and the woman is not accepting Shabbos conditionally by lighting, shouldn't she make the bracha first and then light?
Okay, that's an interesting question. Even there, I think that is our minhag and how it's done, so the one will continue with that. Right? The one will continue with that. Right? Often we want to keep going the same way, that when it's not, that's not the issue. Right? When it's a regular time, to make sure that she does it in the proper fashion. Yeah, Janet.
So now I'm confused with the man. He accepted at shul when he heard Boi Kala or
Okay.
Dodi. So it's Shabbos for him. He goes home and he still says bracha and lights.
No, he lights before he goes to shul.
But you just said it's mincha. He shouldn't be lighting.
He can light, but he doesn't.
What I'm
accept
saying is he clearly is, what I said by mincha, sorry I wasn't clear. What I said by mincha is he's clearly not accepting Shabbos by lighting if he hasn't yet davened mincha. So he's lighting, but he's clearly not accepting Shabbos by lighting at that point.
So he still says he can say bracha first.
He'll say the bracha, light the candles, and he's fulfilling the mitzvah of lighting Shabbos candles, but he's not accepting Shabbos with that light, with that hadlaka, with that lighting.
And he doesn't need the condition.
No, for him, right. For him, that's the standard. The standard is he's not accepting Shabbos at that point. Yes, Dov.
If you lit too early, you can't say a bracha.
Okay. So let's go to the next point, which is how early can a person bring on Shabbos? Okay? And this is what I mentioned before, that the scheduling of Mincha, Shabbos, early Shabbos at 6:15 is not arbitrary at all. Okay. The Shulchan Aruch there was still in Reish Samech Gimel, it's a Seif Daled, right, which is 263, Seif 4. Lo yaktim lemaher lahadliko ba'od hayom gadol. Don't rush to light early while it's still, od hayom gadol, while the day is still at large. Sha'az eino nikar shemardliko l'chvod Shabbat. By doing that, it's not recognizable that I'm lighting candles for Shabbos. The gam lo ya'acher. And also don't be late about it. Right? We learned already about the Tosefet Shabbos. That was the Gemara we saw. If you want to light it while it's still broad daylight outside and accept Shabbos, you can. Since I'm actually accepting Shabbos upon myself, so I'm not doing it early. Right? It's not going to be disassociated from Shabbos because I'm accepting Shabbos. Ulvad sheyehei miplag hamincha ulamala. But it's got to be from plag hamincha and on. Plag means half. Half mincha and on. What does it mean, half mincha? So the normal time that on a regular, let's think a regular 6 a.m. day begins, 6 p.m. day ends. On a normal day, the time in the Beit HaMikdash, in the temple, when the afternoon sacrifice, the mincha sacrifice was brought, was 9.5 hours into the day, 3:30. So the mincha period is from 3:30 until 6. That's 2.5 hours. Plag mincha, half of 2.5 is 1.25. 3:30 plus 1.25 is 4:45. It's an hour and 15 minutes, or I should say 1.25 hours before the day ends. I don't want to say an hour and 15 minutes. Right, because the day is divided up into 12 segments. On a 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., great. Each of the 12 segments is 1 hour. But nowadays, the sun rises early. Thank you. I'll get even a little more.
5 o'clock.
The sun rises at 6.
It was 5.
No,
That's
5.
interesting.
I was up
5.
early this morning.
Wait, it was 5:45.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except
Yeah.
they're not
Unsure.
considering it as daylight
Yeah.
savings time, so it's an hour later.
No, they are.
Oh.
They are. Sunrise, 6 a.m. Sunset, what is this? I'm sorry. I'm in Southfield, Michigan.
Oh.
I'm back. 5:43. Sunrise.
Yep.
Actually, that was a great example. Let me go back to Southfield. Put on your coats, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay? Sunrise, 6 a.m. Sunset, 9 p.m.
See the difference.
So we're talking about a 15-hour day. A 15-hour day. So every sha'ah, every hour is 60 minutes, and then take 12 of 3. 3 times 6 is 180. 12 of that is about 15 minutes, I think. Yeah?
15.
Yeah? So everyone, the actuary agreed? Thank you. Right? So every hour is an hour and a quarter. Right? 75 minutes. Every hour is an hour and a quarter. That's why I shy away from saying Plag HaMincha is an hour and 15 minutes before the day ends. I said it's an hour and a quarter. An hour not meaning 60 minutes, an hour meaning 1/12 of the day. So, we have scheduled that when we make our Shabbos early in the summer, 6:35, I believe, or 6:36 or 6:37 is the earliest that Plag HaMincha ever becomes. So by davening 6:15, we are being sure that we accept Shabbos after Plag HaMincha. That gives us time after Plag HaMincha. That is why in the weekly emails that go out now, in addition to, instead of just writing candle lighting time, I write on those emails, and it's on the calendar also, earliest candle lighting time and latest candle lighting time. A woman who comes to shul to daven Mincha Kabbalat Shabbat for us at 6:15 cannot light candles at home. It is before Plag HaMincha. It is too early for her to light candles at home and make a bracha. She's making a bracha levatala. It's a blessing in vain. It's not yet the time that one can bring in Shabbos with the candle lighting and make a bracha. And that's why during this time we have candles that are set up here. And when I remember, I announce after Mincha, and I remind the women to please light candles. A woman approached me and said, but Rabbi, I need Shabbos candles in my home. I need to have my Friday night meal with Shabbos candles burning. I say to her, by all means, light the candles before you come to shul, but don't make a bracha.
Right.
And those candles you're lighting are for the aura of Shabbos, but your mitzvah of lighting candles for Shabbos can't be done before that time. Alan and then Steve.
Okay, so let's say you do light those candles before Plag HaMincha. You come to shul. You didn't make a bracha. You come to shul. You go home. You do this, and then you do the bracha. Isn't that pretty much the same idea?
That's an interesting question, Alan. And I think,
But you have to do this driving, so it's kind of hard.
as someone walked you home.
Sorry,
I don't think we want to disassociate the two by a few hours. In other words, we're supposed to do the bracha and then the mitzvah, right? So we'll do it, right afterwards with that, getting some hana. I don't think we're not going to want to separate, the act and the hana by in such a way.
Did you use the word chana?
Sorry?
Did you use the word chana?
I don't think so.
Why don't you just say
Oh, hana'ah. Hana'ah is derived benefits.
Benefit.
derive better? Okay.
Thank you. Yes, Steve.
We do a similar kind of thing during the winter with Mincha. We've chosen 12:35 because that's the earliest
Yes.
time.
That is
of the
correct.
afternoon.
That is correct. That is correct. Now, I don't want to get too sidetracked with this. There are two different opinions in the Gemara. When does the time from Mincha end and the time from Mariv begin? Okay? Either Mincha ends as we do during the week here. Mincha ends before sunset, and Mariv is afterwards, and that's why we keep changing every week. We change the time we daven Mincha. That is timed that Mincha will be completed before sunset. Mariv will be after sunset. And the other opinion, Rabbi Yehuda in the Gemara says that Mincha should be before Plag Mincha, and Mariv should be after Plag Mincha. Okay? And the Gemara says, David Kamar Ovid, David Kamar Ovid. If you go like this opinion, that's fine. You go like that opinion, it's fine. What shouldn't you do? You shouldn't do what's called Tarte de Satre. You shouldn't do something that is self-contradictory. Meaning, let's say for us, Plaga Mincha is 6:30 and 7:45 is sunset. Okay? So either I should daven Mincha before 6:30 and Mariv after 6:30, or daven Mincha before 6:45, 7:45, and Mariv after 7:45. What I shouldn't do is daven Mincha and Mariv together at 7 o'clock. Right? Because either decide, is it Mincha time or is it Mariv time? But it can't be both. And during the week, we're very careful with that. And there are places that when they time their minyan for Friday night, you want to make early minyan, fine. But they'll keep moving it every week to time that Mincha is before Plag HaMincha and Mariv is after. We're just set 6:15. So we're going to be davening. Sometimes it'll be before and after. Very often it won't be. So why are we not concerned about that? So there's a very, very interesting approach of the Aruch HaShulchan. Shacharit is aligned with the morning daily sacrifice, the Tamid Shel Shachar. Mincha is aligned with the daily afternoon sacrifice, the Tamid Shel Bein Harbayim. What is Mariv aligned with? The leftovers from any sacrifices that would burn through the night on the altar. That is what Mariv is aligned with. So, the Aruch HaShulchan says, on any normal day, what happens? At night, you're burning things from that day. When can't you burn the things at night from the day? Friday night, Shabbos. Right? Now, we do bring sacrifices on Shabbos, but only the Shabbat sacrifices are brought on Shabbos. You can't be burning the Friday night ones on Shabbos. So basically, you're taking your Mariv, the extra burning the sacrifice, and bringing it back when? You're bringing it back to Friday afternoon. So therefore, on Friday anyhow, we reconfigure. The Mariv coincides with the Mincha. So too with our davening. If the Mariv were to coincide with the Mincha, that would not be an issue. Okay. Let us continue now.
I'm a little confused now.
Yes.
So when was the Tamid that happened to be for Saturday offered as well as the Shabbos?
It was regular time. Shabbos morning and Shabbos afternoon. The Shabbos sacrifices are brought on Shabbos. That's not an issue. The leftover Friday sacrifices being burned on Shabbos, that's a problem.
Right, okay.
Therefore, that comes back. So the Friday night burning, to which Mariv is lined up, that comes back earlier and coincides with the Friday Mincha. So too, our Friday Mincha and our Shabbos Mariv can overlap and coincide within that same time frame.
So the Kohen kept the coals continuously going?
The fire, it was an Eish Tamid. It was a continuous fire. Okay. Let's say, well, can someone decide they want to make late Shabbos? If the community is making early Shabbos, can someone say, listen, I'm not going to make it, I'm going to make a late Shabbos? So there it's very interesting. And here we have a debt of gratitude to other minyanim that exist in our community Friday night. If it's a 1 million town, right? For example, in camp that Natalie runs, right? That's the only minyan taking place in that area, right? The camp has that 1 million. If camp is bringing in Shabbos early, then everyone is bound to bring in Shabbos early with the camp. But where you have a community where there are different minyanim, right? The Barnois have a minyan Friday night in their house, and that is, they bring it in when Shabbos comes in. They don't make early Shabbos. So being that there are different timed minyanim that are taking place, no one is bound to any one minyan. And a person can decide, I'm not going to make early Shabbos, right? And they're not bound by the early Shabbos. Let's say I've made early Shabbos, and I realize that I left something in the car, or I need something done. Can I have someone else go ahead and do that on my behalf? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. It's not Shabbos for that person.
Yeah, but I thought we're not supposed to ask someone to do something that isn't Shabbos for us, and since we've accepted.
No.
The Amira La'akum during Bein Hashmashos, keep in mind, even telling a Gentile directly to do something, Bein Hashmashos, right, which is before, right, in that interim time period of Shabbos, right, that is allowed. Amira La'akum, instructing a Gentile to do something for us, Bein Hashmashos, and that's Bein Hashmashos, that's when it's a suffix of Shabbos. Here where it's not Shabbos, I've accepted Shabbos upon myself, fair enough. So therefore I am limited in what I can do. But for someone else to do it on my behalf, that is not a problem.
The Lashon in the Torah, it doesn't just say you, it says you, your wife, and then enumerates.
Yes,
and by this,
that's when it's really, okay, well that's when it's really Shabbos. Again, here it's not really Shabbos. I've decided to bring Shabbos upon myself. But let's touch upon that now. Let's say a husband is making early Shabbos. How about the wife? Right? Now, I might argue and say that the religion is determined by the wife. The minhag is determined by the husband. The wife follows the minhagim of the husband. And therefore, if he has accepted Shabbos upon himself, then it could be argued that that then becomes like his minhag, and he thereby obligates his wife to follow suit. So the very interesting tshuva from Rav Moshe Feinstein on this. He writes as follows: if the husband's accepting of Shabbos is because my minhag is, because of the holiness of Shabbos, because of my wanting to be so careful not to do any malacha on Shabbos, so I really want to distance myself, and I want to bring in Shabbos early. So therefore, this is for lack of better term, this is a frum step. This is a religious step that the husband is taking out of his reverence for the awesome holiness of Shabbos. Then it could be argued that the wife should be following suit. But that's really not the case. How do we know that's not the case?
Because he doesn't do it every week.
Thank you. He doesn't do it in the winter. When Shabbos is starting 4:15, he's not bringing Shabbos at 3 o'clock because of the awesome holiness of the Sabbath and making sure not to transgress, right? Right? You wouldn't catch him dead. 3 o'clock bringing in Shabbos. The poor guy is already getting these dirty looks as he leaves work at 3:30, trying to be home at 4:30 for Shabbos. He's not bringing it any earlier. So why do we do it in the summer? Is it because of the Kedushas Shabbos? It's that would be a hard argument to make. We do it for the convenience.
We want the kids to hear Kiddush.
We want the kids to hear Kiddush. Right? We don't want the kids staying up so late. Right? It's convenient. Right? We don't really want to start our Friday night meal at 9 p.m. Right? It's been an exhausting week. It's a matter of convenience. Okay? Therefore, if it's a matter of convenience, an earlier meal, then this has nothing to do with the idea of a minhag, of a custom that the husband accepts and the wife should be following the minhagim, the customs of the husband. However, he says that it is best if she'll not do malacha that she is doing specifically for the husband. Not to do things specifically min haroi lahachmir b'melechet habal, he writes. It is best for her to abstain from doing malacha that she's doing that expressly for the husband. For what she's doing for herself or what she's doing for the family at large, she is not going to be bound by this husband who accepted Shabbos early, because again, that is not a minhag, that is simply a matter of convenience that they have chosen to do. Steve and then Rick.
People will do what they're going to do, even though in communities where there are more than one shul and more than one time that Shabbos is being taken in. I've been in places where the husband has taken in Shabbos early and has said to the wife, we get to Mizmor Shir Yom Shabbos at such and such a time, so she lights by that time.
There's no reason why she shouldn't or couldn't.
Yeah.
The question is, must she?
Yeah.
Right? If she decides she wants to bring in Shabbos at the same time as they, right?
But then we also have the issue of, when the man comes home from shul, he wants to see the table set, the candles lit,
Again, that's another issue.
Like the malachim.
And the malachim also want to see that. Yeah. Look, even here, where I bring in Shabbos at 6:15, right? By the time I get home, right, which is 7:45, 8 o'clock, right? The candles are lit. Right? Even my wife were to light exactly on time, right? Not a minute earlier than she needs to. The candles will be lit. The table is set. Yeah.
She's organized.
Yeah, she is. Right? There is such an inyan. Over here we're talking, right? That's all a sidebar almost, right? So one should try to take care of that. But that doesn't speak to the issue. Is she obligated with Shabbos with the husband? The answer is not. Rick.
What about reversed? Let's say the wife lights candles, she brings in Shabbos early, and all of a sudden she realizes there's something I forgot to do at the table for Shabbos, and she says, "Honey."
Yeah, that would be fine. That would be fine. The man has not yet brought in Shabbos with
he hasn't gone.
Right. The man brings it in with Mizmor Shir, with L'Chadodi, Boi Kala, Dov, and then Janet.
You do a 24-hour candle. You do it early, no bracha. Come in during Shabbos and make bracha.
So that's what Alan had suggested, and I don't think we would want to have such a separation in the bracha.
But if it would probably still work.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure if one would make it's an interesting question. B'diavad, Alan, your question. The person didn't make the bracha beforehand. Would the person make the bracha? Right? If that's considered lighting, yeah.
also, there was something about that, for all this early acceptance by the man, he has to have been in that minyan to hear Bowie Kala in order to do early? Yes, or?
A person, when Shabbos begins, or a few moments before Shabbos begins, it's Shabbos. The person accepts
But
Shabbos.
Accept early.
To accept early,
Like
if a person accepts early, a man is part of the davening and a woman as part of the candlelighting.
So part of the davening does, only if there's a minyan, or the man can't accept early?
You don't need a minyan. You don't need a minyan, right? A man, look, any person could say, I'm now accepting Shabbos.
Okay.
We're talking about what happens in an automatic fashion.
Okay.
Automatic fashion, a few moments before Shabbos actually begins, Tosefet Shabbos is on that person, like it or not. Right? A person's in shul, and they've gotten past L'chadodi, that person has accepted Shabbos.
Suppose whatever reason this person doesn't like candles and doesn't go to shul, or daven at all, can they use the words that you just said to accept Shabbos? I'm now accepting Shabbos.
Yeah, they can.
That's effective?
That's effective. Yeah. Yes.
This is an interesting thing I just thought of. So, so a woman, right, we established she can light candles and have in her mind that she's not accepting Shabbos and then drive to shul, right? Let's say a man is at shul, he's doing it's still not dark.
I grappled with this, Aaron.
Can he, in his mind, say, I'm not accepting Shabbos?
I grappled with this. You know, I was thinking, we have early Shabbos, right? And, you know, there might be one or two people who actually drive home after davening, right? So I grappled with this. Should I tell people, you know, you're going to come to shul, but have in mind not to accept Shabbos until you get home. Right? I thought I had a great idea. The problem is that, I mean, I didn't see, I have to see exactly where I saw it, but you can't. Once you can't daven your Shabbos davening and not accept Shabbos.
That
right?
makes sense.
The Shabbos davening is all about, it's Shabbos. So I can't do my whole Shabbos davening, Bowie Kala, Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbos, Baruch Hu. I take my Shemona Esrei, Baruch Hashem Mekadesh HaShabbos, Vayichulu. Right?
Why can you do the halachic Nereshel Shabbat and not the other ones?
Because the candle lighting is not the candle lighting is something that is there for Shabbos. It's not necessarily right. A man never accepts with his candle lighting, right? I have a mitzvah to light the candles so that I'll have the illumination come Shabbos that night, right? But here the whole davening is about accepting Shabbos. I was so excited when I had that idea.
You had the same idea.
Yeah, you know, once I sort of wrapped my head around, once I landed in Irvine, and I saw, you know, I got a better idea of the landscape here. So I was trying to think, what can I do, but I couldn't.
Then you wouldn't have a car to drive home after Shabbos.
I'm sorry?
Then you wouldn't have a car to drive home after Shabbos.
If what?
If you drove home after.
Oh, I wouldn't have it for Saturday night.
$100.
Okay, I have to come with 2 cars. That's an idea.
So the lights are actually the lights are preparatory to the Shabbos, so you could be saying you're lighting them for Shabbos because it's ahead. But when you do the davening that you're talking about, it's in the moment.
Yeah. That's actually the Shabbos you're accepting. Steve.
This is a different subject, but maybe there's, I don't remember. A woman goes to the mikveh. Does she immerse once before she makes the bracha? Am I remembering correctly?
I believe so.
And is that anyway kind of analogous to lighting the candles and covering? You know what I'm saying? Is there some?
Not really. No. I mean, look. That's a whole, yeah.
But I
Normally make the bracha beforehand. The two exceptions are Shabbos, exceptions are Shabbos candles, Netilas Yadayim, right? We wash our hands and then make the bracha, and that's why, right? We really should make the bracha and then wash our hands. We want to cleanse our hands first. So we wash our hands, we don't dry our hands. We make the bracha and then we dry our hands. And since the drying is also considered part of the washing, so therefore we also, by doing that, it's considered somewhat over lasiyata. Right? Similarly, the woman will immerse, come out, make the blessing, and then immerse again.
So, on that topic, what about tzitzit, your katan? What do you make the bracha and then put it on, or do you put it on and then make the bracha?
So, okay, normally, if a person is only wearing tzitzit and won't be wearing a talit that day, then a person would make the bracha and then put it on. If it's honoring made the bracha, then he would feel the tzitzis, give a kiss. But really, the same with the talis. We hold the talis up, litatepa tzitzit, and then we wrap ourselves up in it. But we don't make a bracha on our tzitzit when we put them on in the morning because it's considered secondary to the talit that we're going to be putting on at a later point. So you put the tzitzit on in the morning without a bracha. When you're about to make your bracha on the talis, you have in mind that you want to cover also with that bracha is going both on the, yes, but it's and the real thing is litatef. That's the real bracha. Right? You're supposed to be wrapping yourself in it. Right? So therefore that covers the mitzvah tzitzit blessing that a woman make. Yes.
which reminds me of an issue that I don't remember the answer I got. I have I have two different talisim gedolim. One for weekdays and one for Shabbos. So I have two different talis. And so I wear during the week, and then Friday afternoon when I'm getting dressed for Shabbos, I put on my
Shabbos
tzitzis. Did that require a mitzvah, a blessing, a bracha, or not?
No, because it's all almost like one continuous wearing. Yeah. Yes, Dov and then Janet, I'm going to call it a day, my friends.
A goy can come in and light the candle.
What?
What did you say?
A guy can come in and light the candles.
Sure.
Or a guy could light the candles in his house. Or a guy could have it in that burger. What does that do with me, though?
No, they can come in, light the candle.
What does that do, though?
Can you?
Now you have light. You didn't have it before.
You can also turn the lights.
During Shabbos.
You can also turn the lights.
Come in and light it up.
Flick the light switch.
Yes, Janet.
Okay, so you've accepted, you have your stuff in the oven, and
Stuff in the oven?
so now that you've accepted and you did an automatic shut off, can you can still just let everything go and keep warm, like if your challah is in and
Yeah, you could look. An oven is another issue. You can't open up the oven when it's on,
No.
right? Because that causes the fire to flare up.
Unless
Right?
it's a Shabbos oven.
I'm sorry.
Unless it's a Shabbos oven.
If very often what a person will do is they'll have the oven up high, right, warming things up, and then right before Shabbos they'll turn off the oven, right? It's still gonna be very hot. It might still continue to do some cooking in there, right? But the oven is off, so that.
Is there a difference between electric and gas?
An
An electric one.
electric.
And you're not with an electric. You open the oven. It's not changing the it's changing the temperature, but that's.
Is it off already?
Yeah. Yeah. If you.
Right. If it's off, it's not an issue. You talking when it's still on?
Oh.
that's what I was.
Well, how can
Yeah.
you have? Oh, if you're going to leave the oven on the whole
Yeah,
Shabbos.
yeah. Then we
No,
can't.
but some Shabbos ovens have you can program it for a shut off time.
Yeah. So you want the shut off time to be before you're going to be opening it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we have programmable candles?
Yes, Lynn.
So we should be thankful to the lighting the candle on Shabbat is like a reminder to rush maybe to accept the Shabbat.
Yeah,
Kodesh.
yeah. The light
so
candles.
they are the main,
Yeah.
like the reason for the.
So the Shabbos candles is to lend a certain beauty and aura, a shalom bayit, and an oneg, right? A certain tranquility, peacefulness, and a certain oneg, a certain beauty,
Because
That it
people
lends.
always rush.
Yeah.
I have to let the candle light.
Yeah, yeah.
So the candle is the reminder for
For
the
many,
Shabbat.
for many, yeah, yeah. Okay, yes,
So,
Shikol. Next week, the topic is going to be entering mosques and churches.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
On Temple Mount.
For good?
That'd be a short one.
Yeah, for a guy to enter to light a candle.
Rabbi.
In a moment.